Welcome back, y'all. Look, we got another look into Super Rugby Pacific and the National Rugby League. Of course, these two professional leagues are absolutely killing it like none other before. But, I always say, look, if you don't know the information, you need to find somebody that knows the information because of the fact that there's so much rugby happening and it's so difficult to keep up. I had to bring in a little bit of help. And so I got my guy, Jason Bray of the Rugby Lovers Guide to Asia to be able to come in and to be able to help me with being able to talk a little bit Super Rugby and NLR. Y'all, please give your round of applause for my guy, Jason. Expert guy who is obviously obsessed. Obviously, we put all the hype and pressure. All right, y'all. I am here with an expert guy who is obviously obsessed. Obviously, we put all the hype and pressure on him about Super Rugby Pacifica and National Rugby League because, I am actively trying to make sure that I give more credence to Rugby League and see how I can unwind my biases against Rugby League as they continue to develop and try and make its efforts in whatever means or factor. I want to bring in, of course, the guy, the legend, my partner, my boy, Jason Bray of Rugby Lovers Guide to Asia. Do I say that? Or do we just go like Jason Bray, filmer, photographer, documentarian?
We've known each other for about 5 or 6 years. You still can't remember the name of my business. The Rugby Lovers Guide to Asia I said
that. But Rugby Lovers Guide. I didn't know whether you want to keep wanting to use it or whether you want to
you fumbled your way. You fumbled your way through that as if you didn't know. But I forgive you. I'll forgive you.
Look. All right. We today get to just, we're not going to go Asia. We're going Asia adjacent. But you know what?
Yeah.
Today, we are talking Super Rugby Pacifica and National Rugby League. Obviously, these are two areas that I enjoy, but I simply do not have as much time to be able to focus in on them. So I needed to bring the help, and obviously, you know this. So are you ready, man? Are you ready to bring your deep Aussie insight?
Correct. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I mean, I again, like you, I'm pretty busy too, but I've got a basic overall understanding of what's happening. So we'll rip into it.
Look, this is your region, all right? You are an expert. You know everything, and you have no choice. There's no choices.
Expert, oh my gosh. All right, let's start. First, Super Rugby.
Right. Let's start. All right, let's recap on Super Rugby week 3. Obviously, they've been in this for a little bit. I think the biggest games that happened out of Super Rugby this past week, number 1, Chiefs losing to the Reds. That is your guys' people out there. That was a big one because the Chiefs really had a big game coming off of that one. The other one that was super surprising to me, Crusaders losing to Fijian Drua. Massive. In that. And then lastly, maybe into some extent, what we got from the Hurricanes Blues, Hurricanes winning 29-21 in a close one. For you, what were some of the games that caught your eye from last week with Super Rugby?
Just going through them. The ones that caught my eye, unfortunately, the Moana Rebels game caught my eye for the wrong reason. Empty stadium, ugly to look at. Like, we're not talking people scattered. We're talking about dead, empty stadium. Not a good look for the Super Rugby. So that was for the wrong reason. But afterwards, the Waratahs missed a kick at the end to beat Highlanders. A reasonably easy kick by Super Rugby standards, by professional rugby standards. Could have won the game. Another big upset for an Australian team over a Kiwi team, but it wasn't to happen. The Drua win is big, particularly since this is now 3 losses in a row to Crusaders, who've been winning this competition since Adam was a boy.
Right.
And to see them lose 3 in a row is like huge. Drua did it last year as well in Suva in Fiji, so that's kind of puts a little bit of a temper on how big that upset was. So this is the 2nd year in a row they've done it. But it is great to see, unlike the Moana game, and I'm not knocking Moana, it's not Moana's fault. They're playing in New Zealand, that one. But it was just great to see a packed house of Fijians bouncing off the walls in that game. The Pacific Island teams is what makes this competition distinct. Those two teams, Fiji, for me anyway, I think it's the kind of the point of difference between it, the NRL, and other rugby competitions. So to see Drua doing well in Fiji in a packed house was great. Crusaders, I guess there's, when you have a team that does really well, like it's
Right.
killing it, and they've won like I think the last God knows how many, and to see them kind of bring them back a little bit for most teams to go kind of have a bit of a giggle. Crusaders also obviously it's heartbreaking, but it's nice to see other teams getting the look in. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It gives kind of parity some parity into the week. Watching this Fijian Drua team, obviously, this is what, year 2 of them, year 3 of the Fijian Drua. I've been really impressed with the games that feel the biggest. They seem to come up to play. But the games that seem to be where they should win or should at least dominate in, it seems to be the ones where they struggle the most.
Yeah.
From your perspective, from what you've been able to see, what do you think is kind of the pattern habit that you expect or that you've observed from the Fijian Drua over the last year or two, and subsequently what you might be seeing now coming recently?
Well, I think you nailed it. For particularly for new teams in any competition, it's just consistency, winning week in, week out. So Moana won last week. They beat Fiji in a really wonderful game, like an absolute try feast, which what I was hoping for and what we saw. The week after, they lost the Rebels. I won't say one of the weaker teams, but certainly not one of the front runners at this stage of the season, and they probably should have beat them. So it's just whenever a new team comes into a competition, no matter what team that is and what kind of game they're playing, consistency is what it's all about. That week in and week out grind, that discipline, that turning up a weekend. And that's just simply what both those teams need to do. That just get into that to win ugly sometimes when your team's going about 90% and they're playing against a spirited opposition, but still find an ugly way to win. Things like that. That's just what they need to do. And that only comes through experience, through playing lots and lots and going a group of players who are just in the habit of winning, which is why teams like Crusaders have always continued to do well, because they're in that winning habit.
Yeah,
that's what they've got to do. They've got to get that winning habit.
Man, okay.
Speaking of winning habits, Brumbies came back as well.
At least one of the Australian teams did absolutely disappoint. Well, I guess the Reds won too. So at least 2 out of 3 of the Australian teams did absolutely disappoint.
Yeah. Well, that is a good thing for this competition. Obviously, it's great for us Aussies to see our teams do well because it bodes well for international stuff. But the competition as a whole benefits just so we're not sitting there watching, 5, 6 Kiwi teams in the finals with the whatever Australian team can sneak in, disappearing out the back door in the first week. To see a competition that mix it up and engages with the Australian rugby public as well, deep into the finals. I think that's what they want to see. So my boys, the Reds, beat the Chiefs, who are on top at the stage. And not only, I'm a Reds fan, so I'm going to go on a little bit here, but not only did they win, but they're playing a really good brand of rugby. They've brought in a guy called Les Kiss, who's the coach. He's actually a rugby league player, played for the North Sydney Bears, as well as for the Mighty Maroons and stuff. And he was coaching up at London Irish. And I don't know if you ever saw any of that stuff before the London Irish got kicked out, as most teams do these days, it seems, in that competition. But they were playing a great brand of rugby there. I loved watching the London Irish play, and now they're playing a great brand of rugby here with the Reds, which I think is our natural. Like the Reds, again, I'm a Reds fan from day dot. So I've always thought that we are better when we're playing that open brand of rugby, that exciting brand of rugby, and we are playing it and we're winning. So again, that bodes well for the competition, that we've got a mixture of teams competing. It's not a give me that the Crusaders are going to win their 20th in a row.
Right.
I'm certainly a lot more interested than I have been for several seasons at this point, round 3. Right.
Awesome.
And then we get back to that winning thing, is that what could easily happen is the Kiwis teams, because they are more professional. They are far more professional than the Australian teams at this point. Let's be honest. They do have the winning feeling in their blood, and they're more likely. It wouldn't surprise me if they pull away towards the end of the season. But at this stage, it's an engaging competition.
The parody is still early, and at least you're able to see it. And let's kind of run with that, and let's kind of get on to the next point of week 4 and the games that are coming, because I think this speaks now a lot of volumes for what you're talking about now. So we got obviously full slate of games, 6 games. So just count them off. We got Crusaders, Hurricanes, the Western Force versus Moana Pacifica, Chiefs versus Fijian Drua, Waratahs versus Blues, Highlanders versus Brumbies, and Rebels versus Reds. Once again, a solid slate of New Zealand versus Australia, and then the islands taking on the worst and best of what they have to offer.
So I'll just briefly go through. I would even, this sounds totally against the form guide, one versus last, or one of the last teams, but Crusaders I think this is their first game at home. They've been a lot of traveling. They could easily fire up and beat the Canes, even though the Canes are on top. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. The Reds will thrash them by 100 points.
Rebels have no chance. No chance whatsoever.
No, they're doing all right. They're all right. Callagher, the blood nut on the wing, is just playing great rugby. He's a startup for the Wallabies at this point. It's great to see him playing well. Moana could beat the Force, but I think the Force all the way over there in WA should have them. But go Moana. We would like to see you get up a win. Highlanders versus Brumbies. Brumbies are running hot and cold. That's not usually their style. They're usually the Mr. Consistency of Australian rugby, but Highlanders might have them. Chiefs will beat Drua, I think. The Waratahs versus the Blues, with probably the Blues.
So let's kind of rolling back a little bit. Again, it goes back to what I was saying, looking at Fijian Drua versus Chiefs. Obviously, Chiefs are coming off of a loss, Drua coming off of a big win. Do you feel, even though that the Chiefs are obviously the favorites and once again are top of the stand, do you feel like for Fiji, though, again, we've said they seem to step up when it matters most. What makes this game maybe more difficult or maybe more possible for them, despite the fact that the Chiefs are at home, but they are coming off a loss?
I guess they've had a taste of victory. Their confidence will be up. They don't fear the New Zealand sides. They feel they can get them. And they will probably have, even in Hamilton, I would imagine they'd have a pretty excited fan base, probably come down from Auckland to support them there. They're well-loved side, I think, by everyone. No one would hate them.
Right.
It's just, I just can't see the Chiefs losing this one. I'm trying to see Drew win, but I just think the Chiefs firing up after a tough loss to the Reds at home in front of their crowd. Fiji maybe doing the opposite, a bit of a hangover from last week. I just, again, I want Drew and Moana to win as much as possible, because I do believe that they're the point of difference between them and just about every rugby competition in the world. But it's hard to see the Chiefs losing this one. But, this is proving to be a good competition with upsets along the way. You just don't know whoever turns up on the day, I hope wins the game.
Man, look, again, it is anybody's game. Obviously, the stands are going to be jumping back and forth for a little bit on that one. So I feel you on that one. Now, in another show, I talked about Moana Pacifica and the Force. The only reason why I've become particularly interested in Moana Pacifica is because there's been proverbial rumors that they might move them out of Tonga and move them to Hawaii. A lot being, I guess, the possibility of one of the former All Blacks, trying to move this team over there. But they've also been very uninspiring in terms of their performances. Like, yes, they get a good win off of the Fijian Drua, but then they just go a stretch where it's like they don't do anything. And so I'm looking at the Western Force, who are bottom of the bunch right now, have seem to have a history of just being losers. So, with that performance, with that competition, what is it about the Moana Pacifica that can provide some hope? Because obviously this is going to be on the road for them, obviously, and again, Western Force is in Australia. So they're on the road. What about Moana Pacifica? Is it possible? What do they need to do to be able to win this one? And then if on the other side, what does the Western Force need to do to maybe prevent themselves from being last place again?
Yeah, I must admit I don't know much about behind the scenes in Moana Pacific. Of all the teams in the competition, the ones I probably know the least about. Although I will do my research before we meet again to find out more. But I would say, with again a little bit like the Drua, a team or a club that is just new to any competition is discovering its culture.
Yeah,
Is discovering what makes it work and discovering what kind of gives them their mojo and how they want to play as a team. And it does feel like Moana is a little bit slower to the uptake on that than Fiji and Drew. I can't tell you why. Maybe get someone from that who knows more about what's going on there than me. They just seem a little bit to struggle on the uptake. The Force, you mean they were up by a heap of points against the Rebels 2 weeks ago. Like, I think they're up by like 18, 20 points with 15 minutes to go and lost that game in Melbourne. Like, I turned the TV off, or I changed over, I had to go to bed, or something happened because I thought that game was done. And I couldn't believe I came back and see the Rebels ran them down all those points. I think it was something like 24 unbeaten, 24 points. And that kind of says that they're having a hard time finishing games off. They're having a hard time putting opposition to the swords. And again, if winning is a habit, as it is for the Crusaders, then losing is a habit as well. And it looks like Force are in a bit of an ugly losing habit. There's a lot of work that goes into the Force. They've got a really strong base over there in Perth. They've got, Forrester and co backing them to the hilt. They've got a ton of South African fans. A lot of South Africans in Australia moved to Perth. And a lot of the Kiwi expats also make up a really strong base with the Force. There were times I've seen the Force play, and I think they look really good, and they look exciting. They look like they're getting their act together, and then they lose. And they just have to play the 80 minutes. It's a cliche, but in their case, it seems to be the case. They just have to get in there. They've obviously got plenty of attacking ability, but they just need to play that 80 minutes and get back into the winning habit. Moana might be their chance to do it. I will say that the game will be exciting. I think it'll be a pretty high-scoring game.
Yeah.
And I encourage anyone to tune in. But I still think the Force in front of their home crowd will have that one. They've just got to play the 80 minutes.
I love it, man. All right. I think that's all we'll do for Super Rugby Pacific. Obviously, you already kind of did the rundown on who you thought is going to be the win, so I don't think we need to go into that more. All right. So we'll be right back, and we're going to go into National Rugby League Week 2. I know you're hurting on this one because your Broncos, flopped in Vegas.
Oh, bloody hell.
All right, we'll be right back.
Hey everybody, my name is GiftTime and Baylor with Health Enhanced Foods. I want to talk to you a little bit about what we have going on over here, and I want to talk to you specifically about one of my favorite products, buckwheat baking mix. Now, why is buckwheat baking mix important to you? I always like to say, the one thing that you want to be able to do whenever you're eating your food is to not have to worry about whether it's going to be healthy or whether it's going to be good for your body. When it comes with buckwheat, this is one of those few seeds that have a plethora of layers when it comes to what your health is. And within the buckwheat baking mix, it is great for those who want to be able to use it for pancakes, waffles, being able to make your bread, making homemade pasta. Like, absolutely spectacular for that. Now, it's not limited to those, but those are some of the best ways that we have found our customers being able to take care of it. On top of that, why is it so important? It gives you the protein energy that you absolutely need. And if you're an active person, I'm a very active person. I play rugby, I like to work out. But if you're an active person, this one feeds back the muscles, feeds back your body exactly what you need, and in a great way to be able to start off your day. It's rich in fiber. It is absolutely nutrient dense. And of course, it has the level of protein that you really are wanting to need whenever you want to make sure that your body is feeding well. This is absolutely the breakfast food for anybody who is really trying to make sure that their kids or themselves really kick off correctly. And it's absolutely easy to make. All you need to do is put a little bit of baking flour to give it rise, and it has everything else that you need for it. 20 minutes and you'll be done and filled up and ready to go on with the rest of your day. You guys can absolutely go buy this on healthenhancedfoods.com and be able to go ahead and check out that buckwheat baking mix. Enjoy your food, enjoy your breakfast. Let's go.
Anybody say I can't, I say I ain't convinced. Ride around in the city, black out the tents.